Without any further ado, I'm gonna bring up the sister. I'm gonna let her speak for herself. I told her that she reminds me of my mother. She actually looks just like my mother, and then she said, "Well, I hear that a lot." But I sincerely mean it. You got her same vibe. You coming through here. I mean, we are so honored to have you. This is the best birthday present I could have ever received. I kid you now. I feel like a little kid now. I'm so happy. I'm blessed, you know. I mean, I could go out there, oh no, this is my born day, it's my birthday. This is the best birthday present I've ever received. And without any further ado, Dr. Francis Cress.
Wilson and Clemson Brown. I haven't been in New York in a long time, but I'm thrilled to be here. And happy birthday.
Thank you.
And many more. I'm going to, as usual, talk about racism, white supremacy. My mother is deceased, but one time she said to me, "What are you going to talk about, Francis?" And I said, "Mother, you know, I only talk about racism." And she said, "Well, can't you talk about something different?" But everything is racism, and I want to talk about it. I'm a general psychiatrist and child psychiatrist practicing in Washington, D.C. And I have arrived at the point where I feel that the most important thing that we as black people need to understand is this powerful dynamic of racism. Those of you who are familiar with the work of Neely know that he has said, if you do not understand white supremacy racism, what it is and exactly how it works, everything else that you think you understand will only confuse you. So I believe that if we are going to move further into the 21st century and into the 22nd century and into the 23rd century, that we have to have clear insight as to what this process is all about. I think it's in the book of Isaiah. If you do not have, those who do not have a vision, if there's no vision, the people will perish. I guess that's, if there is no vision, the people will perish. Meaning we have to have a more global understanding of exactly what the forces are on this planet, so we can actually do short-range planning as well as long-range planning. I started thinking about racism when I was doing a residency in general psychiatry at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C. And it was a program that was based on Freudian psychoanalytic theory, and nothing was really being said about the mental health of black people. I'm a third-generation physician. My father was a physician. His father was a physician. And my parents told us that you are getting an education not to leave your community. You are getting an education in order to help your community. So the black patients that I would talk to and take a history on, within the history of every black patient would be aspects and dimensions of racism. And when I was an undergrad, I considered myself to be a Marxist. I thought that economics was causing racism, that it was a means for economic exploitation. Well, you can have ideas as an undergrad, but when you are a physician and responsible for the care of patients, you really have to know what you're talking about. I remember going home when I was an undergrad. You know, my parents and my grandmother were sitting at the dining room table, and I announced, I'm a Marxist. And my grandmother said, the more education they get, the dumber they get. But anyway, talking to patients and seeing this gigantic monster in the middle of their history about racism, I said, I've got to really understand racism in depth. And the training program that I was in, it was at a federal government hospital. All the people in charge of the training program were white people. And they actually taught us, there were a few black residents, I think 3 out of 12, that black people did not have the intellectual potential to benefit from psychotherapy. That the best treatment for black people was medication. Well, that did not compute for me. So I said to myself, I want to understand really more about racism. I happened to have been at a social gathering, and these were black people sitting around after a Black Power Committee meeting. And I heard a gentleman across the room say, racism is a system. It was almost like a light bulb going on. That was Neely. How many of you are familiar with his work? I consider him to be one of the critical thinkers in our group in the 20th century and into the 21st century. He was saying that racism is a system, and because we got to get this really in our heads. He said it was a system, and the system functions in all areas of people activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And that the purpose of this system is to maintain the power equation of white over non-white, white power over non-white powerlessness. And so I thought this was a very profound concept. Those of you who are familiar with the work of Dr. Du Bois. Dr. Du Bois in 1903 said that the problem of the 20th century is the question of the color line. This is the problem of the color line. So I said to myself, why would a system for the purpose of maintaining white power over non-white powerlessness, why would such a system evolve on this particular planet, planet Earth? And then I thought about some of the things that are said within the system. One of the critical things is that we are taught that white is a majority. Is that right? And we are told that non-white is genetic inferior. And then I just thought about the things that, you learn going to school for a long time and going to medical school. I said, wait a minute, white is a tiny minority. Fewer than 1/10 of the people on the planet have white skin. And instead of black people being genetically inferior, the ability to produce this black pigment, melanin, is a genetically dominant trait. And we have an excellent example in our president, Barack Obama. his mother is white, was white, his father was black. And you mix these together and what do you get? A colored person. See, always a black person. So I said that, okay, on this planet, planet Earth, in the 15th century, we had Columbus, 1492, coming out of Europe and realizing that the earth was round and not flat. And everywhere these white people landed, they found colored people, right? And if those men were sexually frustrated and the people were over time, and the women had sex, or I should say the men had sex, imposed sex, however you want to look at it. If they waited around 9 months, they found that all of the children looked like the mothers. And so they realized, wait a minute, we are a tiny minority in Europe and no other place where there are white people. So they said, wait a minute, what if these men got in boats and started going from south to north? We could genetically disappear. Now this may not make sense to black people because under white supremacy, black people try to get rid of their color, don't we? White people don't want to disappear. And I have asked audiences of white people, do you want your children to be colored? Do you want your grandchildren to be colored? Do you want your great-grandchildren to be colored? Do you want your great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren to be colored? I'm polite and they're polite. What do they say? No. Meaning they don't want to disappear. So I said, if you mean this, then you have to do certain specific things in all of these areas of activity so that white does not disappear on planet Earth. Now, unbeknownst to us, this is the critical underlying motivation for all of the behavior of people who classify themselves as white on this planet. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the name Tom Metzger. He was one of the arch white supremacists or white separatists. Some years ago, I was on a television program in Los Angeles when President Reagan's son had a television talk show. And so this particular show was a panel of people, might have been 10 people, talking about race and racism. I just happened to be sitting next to Mr. Metzger. And so during a commercial break, I kind of touched him on his arm. I'm sitting right next to him. And he didn't say, "Don't touch me, nigger." I said, "Mr. Metzger, tell me something. What percentage of people who classify themselves as white are fearful of white genetic annihilation?" And he answered very politely. He said, "Dr. Welsing, nearly all of them. But they are ashamed or afraid to admit it." Now, I can understand that. In other words, this system is about white genetic survival. Now, if some people have organized a system for their genetic survival, what's the chance that they're going to give that system up? None. See, they worked hard. And we can consider it unjust. It's the most unjust system that has ever been devised on the planet, where you have 1/10 of the people deciding that they need to control 9/10 of the people on the planet. But all along, I maintain we have not understood this. We thought when we were formerly enslaved, if they would just take off the chains, everything is going to be okay. So they removed the chains, and then what did they do next? They put laws in place to accomplish the same thing. And we went through the 1960s in what is being called the Civil Rights era. And the black people, with all of their dignity and their pride and their courage, going up against horses and hoses and dogs to get the vote, to get that change, coming out of that movement, saying black pride, black is beautiful, black power, black self-respect. And the people who had something else in mind said that's dangerous. If people are talking about self-respect and dignity, then I encourage everybody to look at the films Eye on the Prize and look at those black people, men and women and children, going up against a horrific force. But they were determined and they had their self-respect with them. But the system said, this is dangerous. If we let these people go forward, talking about black pride, black dignity, black is beautiful, we will be in trouble. So we have to have something for them. And I maintain that's when they decided, well, we have to feed them images of Superfly, prostitutes, pimps selling drugs, men kicking women, all kind of language. Following that up into the present with having black people call themselves niggers and dogs and gangsters and thugs and bitches and hoes. That's right. Now once that's in the brain computer, you can do anything. See, that's the complete annihilation of self-respect. Now, we didn't understand it. We thought, oh, this is just entertainment. Right. Like the movie Monster Ball. Or the movie Precious. Do you see? Or the movie for colored girls. See, because we don't have a clue. We don't have a clue about what is going on. See, we've been thinking, and God bless Dr. Martin Luther King, a minister but a great political scientist. He said it's about love. Everybody should love. And he got killed. And I say the reason being that if everybody on the planet, all these people, white, non-white, loved, and the love was expressed in sexual activity, what would happen? What would disappear. You see, so kill him, because that would mean our genetic disappearance. So, if the system is about white genetic survival, what do they have to worry about most?
Black men sleeping with white women.
Black babies.
Black men, white women.
Okay, give him a B plus. Black men, white women. Okay, but let's even take it further. In that if the concern is white genetic survival, they don't have to worry about black women. Why?
X chromosome.
See, the test is going to be next week. The reason being is that men, males, whether they're white, black, brown, red, or yellow, can impose sexual intercourse. If I would, try to impose sexual intercourse on any of the gentlemen here, and they say, I'm sitting next to my wife, and I went to my purse and I got my Uzi. And I frightened the man, what's going to happen? I hope everybody got that. The erection cannot be maintained in the presence of fear. So females cannot impose sexual intercourse, like ultimately, what? Frighten the man. Now the Creator made that possible so somebody, if they were in danger, they wouldn't be in conflict. You see, it's fear. Fear about unemployment could cause a man to have erection problems. Are you all with me? So there's a reason that if the concern is genetic survival, and see, we are decoding this material because we have thought somehow there's some white people who are going to work with us. Sometimes we thought it was Republicans, sometimes we thought, with Lincoln, and sometimes Democrats. But even President Obama is finding out. It could be Republicans or Democrats. But if it's a black man that they're being asked to support, they start jumping ship. Because the test for white people, see, in other words, they work 24/7. They don't sleep. They got 3 shifts going. See, we work 1 shift and then go to bed and then party. They work 24/7 about maintaining the conditions for their survival. You see, because it is very serious to them. And if they have some people who classify themselves as white, who start looking like they're getting out of line, what's the question that they ask? Are you a nigger lover? Do you see, are you with us or are you with them? Now, this is a fundamental question that has to do with the issue of their survival. So that we cannot depend on communists, conservative liberals, Greens, libertarians. And see, this is not a lecture about hate white people. It is a lecture about understanding the opposition. And one of the best analogies to have in mind is the game of chess. See, what is the game of chess about?
Strategy.
Those are nice BC answers.
Tell them about the Black King.
Covering the king. White is right.
It's about white king checkmates black king. White always moves first. So white is playing what? Offense, defense. And black has to play defense, offense. This is what we have now. This is distressing to a lot of people because we wanted to believe, as we were even programmed to believe in the area of religion. See, I don't know how many of you, I'm a little bit older than many, but if you went to Sunday school, my grandfather was chairman of the deacon and trustee board, so we were in Sunday school before we could see straight. But what did we learn? That God is white. And anybody think they didn't learn that God was white? See, if you were given that little Sunday school card with a white picture of Jesus, your brain automatically concluded that his father had to be white. His father could not have been black. Now, if he was a historic figure, he was black. Even Billy Graham said that Jesus could not have been white. But we are programmed to think that Jesus was white, and therefore his father is white. And we were taught to sing, Jesus, translate white man, loves the little children. All the little children of the world, red, yellow, black, and white. All are precious in his sight. How many know that song? Boy, no more church going in these days. There was a time when everybody knew those basic songs. You see, but being taught that God is white, and they got a musical, came out some time ago, Arms Too Short to Box with God. Meaning arms too short to box with the white man. See, when I was a little child, having seen the Sunday school card with Jesus on it, I had just drawn my own conclusion that the man on the Quaker Oats box must be God. See, he was somewhat older with white hair. Jesus was younger, so you know, now we thank him for the food. We just had this big Quaker Oats box in the pantry. I mean, that was my conclusion. But if you, any of you, saw a Sunday school card with the white Jesus, your brain jumped to that conclusion too without your knowing it. That's called a subconscious conclusion. So anyway, this was deeply programmed in our thinking, but I tell people that the truth is, you cannot hide it. That it will come out in material. It will come out through the subconscious. Because if we break the name Jesus down in Ebonics, it spells just us. That's who we're waiting for. Just us to get our heads together. Now I say that as black people, we greet each other a zillion times a day. We're saying, hey, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Because we don't know what's going on. See, we keep running into a wall and wondering how come things haven't worked out. Because we have been deceived. We have been told we are in a democracy where everybody is equal. The truth reason, the reality is that we are in a system of racism, white supremacy. See, we're told that the system of democracy has imperfections. No, we are in a system of white supremacy that has been perfected. And that's why we keep staying basically in the same position. And as long as we don't understand we're dealing with a system, every week we just complain another black man has been shot, another black man has been killed. You say, oh, 10 over there, 3 over there. Oh, well, let's add up the statistics and somebody will run and complain about it. But if it's happening over and over again, that implies intentionality. And if the system is about white genetic survival, who is the enemy of the state? No, the black man. See, in a war, if you can take care of the business as defined, the problem is white genetic survival. So what do you have to knock out in order to not worry about white genetic survival? Exactly. The attack has to center on the black man. Now, years ago, in the 1970s, I was teaching at Howard University College of Medicine, and I would have Neely lecture every Monday night from 8 until 1 o'clock in the morning. And it would be students and people from the community. And Mr. Fuller used to talk about the system of racism, white supremacy, is going to have black men wearing dresses. And now this is 1970, about 72, 73, and that sounded so far out. Nobody, what's he talking about? What has recently happened at Morehouse College? The president of Morehouse College had to announce and lay down the law that the black male students, those who were so inclined, could not wear high-heel shoes, could not wear dresses and carry pocketbooks. Now this is 2010. That if the system, see, in other words, we have to keep system about white genetic survival. This is what the system is about. And the system is working 24/7. If I turn the black male into a female, can I relax about the fear of white genetic survival? Absolutely. Now, I don't know what goes on here in New York. Haven't been here in a while. In D.C., we have a lot of men with their pants hanging down. In the train station, when I bought my ticket to come here, there's a black gentleman, had on some expensive clothes, had some nice luggage. His pants were down here. So he would pull the luggage like this after he got his ticket, and then he'd have to stop. Walk a few more steps.
Wow.
See, now, in other words, imagine somebody looking down from another galaxy or planet. You see, in other words, psychiatrists' behavior, all behavior has significance. You just have to understand the context and the power that is controlling it. Do you see what I'm saying? So, to understand what is happening, because what are we told? 70% of the households are without fathers. Read a book recently where a young black man is talking about having gotten into some difficulty doing a carjacking, carrying a gun at 16. And he said in the book, I had to go to prison to find my fathers. He said, fathers, he said, in prison was the first time he had an opportunity. Now, he didn't consciously put himself in that situation, but looking for fathers. I had a black male child say to me, you know, somebody brings a child to the psychiatrist because he's not studying or something. I had one child say to me who was about 10 or 11 years old, Dr. Welsing, I think I could do my homework if I just had an official father. Now that makes the psychiatrist want to fall under the desk and start crying. I had another child say, if I had a father, he could at least have taught me what goes on under the hood of a car. I had another child. All these children are brought into the psychiatrist because somebody says, teacher, principal, they're smart, but they won't do their homework. Or they won't study. This child came and I said, sweetheart, don't you want to work hard in school? This was years ago. So you can help black people. And this little boy said, no. He wasn't being smart alecky, he wasn't being rude. And I said, you know, the psychiatrist wants to hear the child say yes. He said, no. And I said, why not? He said, if you try to help black people, you're going to be killed. Now this is a little black child, about 11 years old, said Malcolm X, George Jackson. I said, IQ 265. If you try to help black people, you are going to be killed. Was he right? That's like President Barack Obama has had more death threats than any president in the history of the United States. You see, because just that presence of a black man in the White House, like I think a lot of white people who initially voted for him wanted to appear liberal. You see, but once he's in that White House, and a black man with a black wife, and a black grandmother, that's the whole package. They begin to understand, oh my God, if he's in power, and not only that, the reception that he receives all over the non-white world. Do you see? So they started shaking because people who classify themselves as white are not consciously carrying around in their mind fear of white genetic annihilation. They repress that. Do you see? But how do we know? Based on other behaviors that they engage in, and just like Tom Metzger said, the majority of white people are fearful of their genetic annihilation. Sometimes white people will say to me, Dr. Welsing, what can I do to help? And I say, tell black people what white people talk about when there's no black people around. They all go silent. Because what are they talking about? They're either talking directly or in code about white genetic survival. I had a white college professor say to me after I had been invited to speak at a prison, white university giving educational programs in a prison, 100% of the prisoners black males. So I went and talked about the same thing I'm talking about here, about racism. So this white professor said to me, because she drove me out there, drove me back home. She said, see, sometimes when you push truth, and I'm not being rude and disrespectful, people feel compelled to come out with their truth. So she said, Dr. Welsing, you know, I hate to admit it, but on all social occasions, not some, not a few, on all social occasions when it's white people together and there's no black people around, she said, we are talking negatively about black people. And the assumption is that everybody present is in agreement. So I told her that I understood that. See, they're simply talking code. They're just talking code about their survival. They are not going to reveal it. They'll just say to us, isn't it nice that we're in a democracy? You see, but they are talking code about their survival. And at the same time that a black man is in the White House, there are millions of people locked up in prison. Millions, thousands of black men locked up in prison. You can say the incarceration of black genetic material. Now I say that the system 24/7 is talking about this critical problem in activity that you would not think is talking about white genetic survival. So one day, one Sunday, it was so quiet, I said, gee, what's happening? It was so quiet. See, when it's quiet, you can think.
Yes.
And this is why they say, now this is your music. Boom, de boom, de boom. See, all that loud music turns off the brain computer because of sensory overload. See, they use loud music, our loud music, to torture people in Guantanamo. To torture people, to make them go crazy. But they feed it to us and say, this is your music. This is what we want you to hear. But when it was quiet and I said, what's going on? And it came to me, ball games. And I said to myself, for ball games to have a whole city be quiet, the ball games must have a significance, an important significance that we're not generally focusing on. So it just pops. See, once you understand the context, meaning system of white supremacy for white genetic survival, this is the context in which everything, language, speech, activity takes place. So it just occurred to me, came into my computer, There are two series of ball games in the system of racism, white supremacy. If you read the ISIS papers, don't answer. What are the two series of ball games? See, you're looking at it all the time. But if you don't see the context, you won't see it. But you're looking at it. What are the two series of ball games? If you read the book, you're going to be expelled if you answer. The two series of ball games in the system of racism, white supremacy are big brown and small white. No, you read the book.
No, that's what I remember from you. I didn't figure that out myself.
Big brown and small white. Why so? Because once we're talking about genetic survival, then this is what automatically comes in the brain-computer subconscious. And this is not a man with glasses. Do I need to get a model to come and stand? See, why does this come into mind? Because this is a diagram of male genitalia. This is the phallus or the penis. These are the testicles. The testicles contain the genetic material. What are the testicles called, colloquially? Balls. Is that right, class? See, I don't make up stuff. I just observe. Balls. So out of the same brain computer that set up a system of white supremacy comes to, see, this doesn't come out of our brain computer. It didn't have to. So the big brown balls mean the genetically dominant balls. And they are brown. And what are they? Football. Basketball. Bowling ball. Earth ball. Small white marbles. Ping pong. Baseball. Tennis. But do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Now, to me, this is just fantastic. This is coming out of a system that is worried about white genetic survival, and by their thinking of the white ball as small and producing small white balls means they, at a subconscious level, are aware of their genetic vulnerability. Are you following me? Yes. See, and this is being played out. These ball games are going on all the time, 24/7. So it doesn't matter whether you are picking it up consciously or subconsciously. It is still getting the message across. So beyond that, in the game of, well, first of all, what do white females say about their ideal mate? Not tall, blonde, right? Tall, dark, and handsome. And so, In the football, this big brown ball goes into some white upright legs at the end of the field. Are you all with me? The basketball goes into a white net. Are you all with me? Is this an adult class? And it's white girls in short dresses dancing on the side. And a black girl can hardly get on the squad. Is that correct? Now, a white man said to me, Dr. Welsing, do you know what white men say? I said, no, I don't. He said, white men say they're not men. Until when? Until they have had sexual intercourse with a black woman. See, there's a lot of young people in here. See, this is the underpinning in the culture. This is what the culture is really thinking about all the time. The people who are thinking. So the most powerful men play what ball game? Football. Now our president just got hurt playing basketball. You see, but what the game that the white presidents play? Golf. Now how is that game played? I'm going to demonstrate. Long stick held between legs. Trying to get the little white ball in a hole in Black Mother Earth. And if this is a real, are there any little children? I see a couple. I'll address the grown-ups. The golf course is laid out, and it always has water holes. It has rough. It has sand trap. And then it has the hole that it's supposed to go in. Now anybody studying anatomy and female anatomy will understand. This is pubic hair. See, the ball happens to go in the rough. Or the ball can go in the water. See, the female genitalia, you have the vaginal opening, you have the urethra where the urine comes out, and you have the anus, and that's the sand trap. Are you all with me? Yes. I don't want to ruin anybody. We have got to understand racism and white supremacy. We have got to understand that while we're playing, they're staying on the case 24/7. And that's how a minority can control a majority on the planet. See, by words, by symbols. What about the game of, excuse me. What about the game of billiards or pool? Green field, long stick, triangle, a whole lot of colored balls. See, the triangle is the female vaginal orifice. Take the triangle off, and what's the game about? The white, long stick white ball knocks all the colored balls under the table. And what ball is left on top of the table?
White ball.
The white ball. The black ball is the last ball to go in. See, we're doing too much partying and eating and not observing. The black ball is the last to be knocked in. And the expression is what? President Obama, you don't want to be caught where? Behind the 8 ball. See, if you're behind the 8 ball, that means that the black man is in power. You don't follow it.
Yes.
What else can we look at on here? Let's look at the password in the black community, at least it used to be. Do people in New York, Brooklyn say motherfucker?
Yes.
Yes.
Still. One day I came out of the clinic and there was some young people passing and they were the motherfucker, the motherfucker, the motherfucker, mother. So my first reaction is, oh my God. The second reaction, if a word or a phrase is used with high frequency, there has to be a reason behind it. So I said to myself, in the system of racism, white supremacy, there are 5 people categories. Man, woman, boy, girl, baby. Who is the man? I said, here comes the man, you all. Why are you all so quiet?
The man, white man.
The man is the white man. Any other male has 4 choices. Black men fought historically, don't call me no boy. Is that right? The white supremacists say, okay, you got 3 choices. Woman, girl, or baby. It used to be that woman and girl were out. Baby was in. How many black ladies have called a black man that they are highly familiar with baby? You all better tell me. See, lying to yourself. You read the book. How many gentlemen have called a lady that they're familiar with mama? Hey mama, can I ride with you? Let's get a witness. How many gentlemen have called the place where they sleep a crib? Are you following this?
Still do.
Man who calls himself baby calls a woman he sleeps with mama. Calls a place where he sleeps a crib. Will call himself what? A motherfucker. Are you all with me? Now my mother, bless her soul, my mother was a Chicago public school teacher. So this is some time ago. She's deceased now. But she called up, I'm in Washington, she's calling from Chicago. Hi, Mom, hi. My mother said, hi, Francis. She said, I heard that you said that word in public. And I said, Mom, what? What? You know. I said, no, I don't. Mom, what? What? said Maryland farmers. I had never heard that before, but you know, I said, Ma, don't worry. It's a political expression. How so? Man who calls another man the man and calls himself baby. The power of a man compared to the power of a baby. Who's powerless? Politics, political means the power relationship between people. Nobody has to feel bad. This is the system that we're talking about. The system of racism, white supremacy has to take power from the black male if there is going to be white genetic survival. Are you all with me? See now, if we begin to understand this, so that we understand what we are dealing with, then we can begin to have choices about what we're going to do on the black side of the chessboard. Because white supremacy is coming down, attacking us by any means necessary. See, whether they have to do it with Tuskegee syphilis experiment, HIV, AIDS, Ebola, whatever, cholera in Haiti, whatever, or their survival. So if we don't understand the game, what in the world can we do? You see, but once black people, once black men understand the game, basketball is a game about tactics and strategy. Football is about tactics and strategy. So all the person wants to know is what's the game, how is it played, what are the rules? But we have been deceived, so we haven't understood what the game is all about. So we're floundering all over the place, not understanding and not making points, because we don't understand the system. And I maintain, for those who want to do something about this critical situation, Neely Fuller has said, there are 4 possible ways that a victim of a system can respond. They can submit, they can cooperate, they can resist, or they can engage in destruction of. Now, destruction of, those are the people who are already dead, like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the people who they're going to move in spite of the pressure. They don't mind losing their lives. I'm not advocating that. These are all individual choices. Submission means it's too much for me, let it just roll on over me. Cooperation with, just give me a job, 2 figures, 3 figures. Resist, I'm talking about the system, so I'm resisting. If they say, Francis, we'll kill you, I'll probably jump back here. It's all a matter of choice. You see, but at least to be consciously aware of what is going on. Like Neely Fuller says, who is an Uncle Tom? The person you see when you brush your teeth. That means, see how quiet? No, that's just cooperating with the system. The slave master told Uncle Tom to take some other slaves to another plantation. He didn't run away. He said, I gave my word, so I go back to the plantation. The slave master did him in, but he was cooperating. See, if you stop at a red light, you're cooperating. If you stop at the cashier in the supermarket, see, you're owed everything free. Every black person is due several $1 trillion for what happened to us. You see, but so you pay at the cashier. You stop at the red light. We're into cooperation with, but people can decide to resist. I say talking about what the system is really all about. Not deceiving ourselves as to what the system is actually about. And the people who keep resisting, even though they're threats to their lives, they're in a special category. This is not show-off category. It's just where the person's will and where their commitment is. And again, this is not about name-calling white people, cursing out white people. See, I was giving a lecture on Thursday. I said, you know, one of the most important things we can do in relationship to people who classify themselves as white is to say, we're afraid of you all. We're afraid of you all. See how quiet it is? That means that truth, but it's not speaking out. Do we have a right to be afraid? Yeah. Sure. Sure. Look at this. I said, this is the problem. Perceived as the problem. When a white police officer, so-called, stops a black man and says, I thought he had a weapon. He does. It's genetic power. You see, think of all the cases. I thought he had a weapon. The man just had his wallet in his hand or his keys. I thought he had a weapon. And that's enough for the person to do what? See, this is a front view of male genitalia. This is a lateral view. If you turn that around 90 degrees, you get this. What does that look like? A gun. And what is the gun called in the system? The great equalizer. Meaning, you have weapon can annihilate me. Must create weapon can do same thing. You see, so where is the gun worn? One on each side. That's just like this. And then it's called justifiable homicide. You see, meaning anytime I see a black male and I get a little bit nervous, if I'm authorized to carry a gun, I'm authorized to kill him. Are you all with me? I see fear. Don't feel bad. This is war. War for white genetic survival by any means necessary. You see, but if we don't face what it is, then people are engaged in a pretense that everything is all right. But everything is not all right. We are in a state of a slide towards genocide. See, you cannot have the men from a community removed and have a people. Are you all with me? See, but white supremacy is so bold. On the front page of the Washington Post a little while ago, they said, black women, you should start, because I know the black men are all gone. So you should start dating white men. On the front page of a newspaper. Do you understand? That's just like slavery. We're killing off the black men. So, hey, you want to have a man, so-called? Get a white man. You see, and then on the other side, they're saying, now we are unleashing a certain number of white females to go with black men. Because that will make them believe that racism, white supremacy doesn't exist. A young man came up to me on Thursday at my institute and said, I just came back from Germany, Dr. Welsing. Says a lot of black men who are out of the service, and they're married to German women. He said if it weren't for the color, they got, they're kind of built like black women. See, that's the Caroline Brigade. So I said, I guess you'll be going back to Germany? See, that the system has figured out. In formal slavery, when the white slave master would be rampantly raping African women, but the mother would be black, and she would tell the child, you're black. White females tell their offspring, you are not black. You're mixed. Now, what does that mean she actually is thinking about black? To say to the child, you are not black. But let him try to stop a cab. Let him try to get a job, so he becomes schizophrenic. Because he has been taught by the mother to hate black. I really don't respect your father. You see, but these are all of the kinds of confusions and difficulties that go along with maintaining the system of racism, white supremacy. So every black person has a whole lot of choices. Submit, cooperate, resist, or try to destroy. So this is where we are. So what do we do? See, if somebody, because what we need some strong people over here. Males and females alike. So if I could wave a magic wand, if I could wave a magic wand, I would say for us to fight racism, white supremacy, we need some strong people. Where do people start getting strong? When?
When you fall down.
That's not the answer I'm looking for.
Self-awareness.
It's history.
They start getting strong before the sperm meets the egg. You know, people used to insult people by saying, you're a bird brain. You know, because birds have little tiny brains. But I say the bird knows you build a nest before you lay an egg.
Mm.
Are you all with me? Yeah. See, nobody has to feel bad. In other words, we have been victimized by a system that does not want us to be strong and functional. The system can't tolerate black people being strong, self-respecting, and functional. And so it creates where we are. But if people are going to be strong, I would say, now don't chase me out, I'll be leaving soon. See, if I could wave a magic wand, because I'm trying to get an army over here of self-respecting black people. So I would say, black people need to be 35 as males, 30 as females before having sex. Oh! And they need to be married.
Yes.
Because what the system has us doing, see, we are under fire 24/7. This is stress city. At least for people to be old, because if I'm 14, 15, there's no way I can pass on strength to a child. There's no possible way. There's no possible way that I can take care of somebody for 25 years to stand them on their feet. Are you with me?
Yes.
In formal slavery, we were breeders and studs. Are you all with me?
Yes.
And the offspring were sent away to different plantations. That's called foster care. Are you all with me?
Yes. Yes.
I'm so sick and tired of seeing patients in foster care who were sexually abused. 10 foster homes. How can somebody come out sane? The intention for them to come out sane was not the goal. Do you also have, see, this is like fight back. I mean, oh no, you're not genociding us. Do you see, but they have, see, once you teach people, call yourself a gangster, call yourself a thug, call yourself a bitch and a hoe, then it doesn't matter what happens to you. What's supposed to happen to a bitch? What's supposed to happen to a hoe? What's supposed to happen to a dog? Right. The system says, hey, I'm really wiping you off if I can. And the only response is, no, you're not. No, you're not, for those who can. No, you're not. But see, we don't really have a convincing response to that. So they can, how many people have seen CNN and Soledad O'Brien talking about Jonestown? And they keep putting it on, and putting it on, and putting it on. 1,000 black people were killed. I say they had to be gassed, following a white Jesus called Jim Jones. I say they had to be gassed because dogs don't drink Kool-Aid. and they had dogs dead, laying with their feet up in the air. You see, and if you had drunk cyanide, you would be convulsing but not laying straight. But what they're doing is saying, now we're going to kill 1,000 of them and see how they react. Let's see, we'll kill 40 and call it the Atlanta child murder. They don't react. Let's see, I'll kill 2,000 in Haiti and tell them it was cholera. They have no reaction. Are you all with me? These are experimental testing. See what they do. Have we succeeded in having them repeat gangster and thug and bitch and hoe and nigger? It's saying those are terms of endearment. See, so we have to give the system a series of A+. Mission accomplished. Mission tournament won. You see, so we have to think. How can we start valuing ourselves? See, when people are working, see, if you turn on your TV in the morning, you're getting white, blonde white women, white, See, and then Anderson Cooper can come on CNN and have the little children, a little 3-year-old white child. How many of you saw those programs? Yes. It's too bad the audience didn't see it. Because they gave little white children a strip with color faces on it. You know, like white face, little tan face, all the way to a black face. 3-year-old white child. Which child is stupid? Without hesitation, the black child. Which child is ugly? Which child is bad? Without a moment's hesitation. And then they did the same thing with some black children. Beautiful little children. Which child is ugly? Black. Which child is dumb and stupid? Black. See, in both parents, the white parent and, oh, we don't know how. Those are just primary lessons in the system of racism, white supremacy. And all you have to do is put a child in front of the television and they learn the lesson. Not to mention conversation that might go on in the household about, isn't that girl pretty? Now, was she crystal black? No. See, it's the vibe fell. My back is turned, but the vibe fell. See, we have to get in touch with the truth. See, little black babies, the day they're born, the family goes to the hospital, they're looking through the glass. The nurse says, this one is yours. No, that must be a mistake. No, that check the bracelet again. What does the system teach? If you're black, get back. If you are brown, stick around. See, I can do this in London. Same. If you are yellow, and if you're white, you're right. See, now this is just color code white genetic survival. Because the more genetic power you have, your skin is crystal black. A next lesser level of melanin production, so-called brown, slide red in there, and yellow. White is none at all. And so it stands to reason, if the system is about white genetic survival, dark has to be out. So parents bring the little children to the psychiatrist. Dr. Welsing, my daughter says she's going to kill herself because the boys say she's too dark to date. Are you all with me? See, we have to cure, if we're going to have any response going this way, we have to cure color sickness, hair sickness, feature sickness. Are you all with me? See, just embrace yourself. Just say, this is fascinating. I tell my patients, don't say I'm stupid. Just say, this is interesting. This behavior that I have is fascinating. The behavior is just coming from what the system is ran me 24/7 non-stop. For is genetic survival. See, teach them to hate themselves, and then all we have to do is bring some drugs in. Well, first we have to have unemployment. See, now it costs $45,000, $50,000 to maintain one black man in prison for a year. Why couldn't he be paid $45,000, take care of himself, a wife and 2 children? Oh no, we would rather have him locked up. Learn how to be a lady. Are you all with me? The person doesn't have to feel bad. No, a system is operating on us that we don't have a clue about. But we can begin to understand. Where there is no vision, the people will perish. Where there's no understanding, the people will perish. So we have to make up our minds that, wait a minute, we better understand this. Because just like Hitler said, I don't care about their religion. Talking about Semites of the Jewish religion. Read Hitler, Mein Kampf. He said, I don't care about their religion. I'm killing them because they're not white. See, we got a whole lot of black people who've miscegenated and could pass for white. That's what the Semites of the Jewish religion, they came out of North Africa. But if you move up into Europe and you miscegenate, we got a lot of black people. I think I'm going to have a baby by a white man because it's going to give my child a better chance. Anybody hear that before? We know all about that. So they had the same process going. They thought they were in. You see, but Germany's economy went south. Does that sound familiar? And when everybody is shaking and nervous, Adolf Hitler came on the scene. So what we're going to do is kill him. We're going to kill him. I'm going to kill 11 million was the number he set for himself. He succeeded in killing 6 million. See, 6 million. You ever start wondering where the people who are moved out with gentrification, where are they? Where are they going? out of mind. And if we are in a state of not caring about ourselves, we won't even raise the question. See, we will not raise the question because what? I don't care about myself. I don't like the way I look. It's okay if I'm dead. So, what? It's not about frightening, it's about, see, and I say this, that the creator of the universe made black people the first people. I'm not talking about a monkey. The first human beings, the first people to know about family life, the first people to know about God, the first people to know about mathematics, philosophy, architecture, engineering. And the Creator said, I made you the parents of everybody on the planet. So I think that the Creator, in a certain sense, is, okay, I'm going to test them. I'm going to have them taken through hell. And let me see whether they will rise up with what I made them to be. We are the parents of everybody, including white people. All we have to do is have a mutation to albinism, and that's white. Here's a passage in the Bible. The sons of God saw the daughters of man, and they were fair. Meaning the sons of God, the crystal black people, saw the daughters that were mutations from man, and they were fair. What does fair mean? White. See, and it's just like I gave a lecture in New Hampshire a long time ago, and I told the white people, I said, you know, maybe we owe you all an apology. We black people. So maybe we were the first child abusers. Because we are the first people. How many people are reading the articles that are coming out of Africa about how black people are treating the albino mutants? Yes. Mistreatment, right? So here's the huge continent of Africa. Here's the Mediterranean. Here's these little tiny countries of Europe. Human life began right in this area. These are crystal black people. But for some reason, some albino mutants were produced. And we chased them out. And I say, that's the book of Genesis. Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden. They ate the forbidden fruit and became ashamed of their nakedness. See, doctors even now try to, you know, some abnormality comes about. One of the first things we want to ask the mother, what did you eat? Did you eat the forbidden fruit? So the albino mutants were pushed out. And directly north of Africa is what? Europe. So they were pushed down up here. And thousands of years they collected, formed a big group. And then what did they do? They came back home and got the mothers and fathers who rejected them and took them west to America and said, now you're going to take care of the white baby. Put that little black baby in a box out in the field, and you're going to nurse this white baby, and you're going to take care of us without charge. And then Western culture history said that Western civilization began where? Come on, class, you don't want to repeat the
Greece.
Rome. And the founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus. And what were they doing? So Romulus and Remus had to suckle on a wolf. That means they are foster children. Are you all with me? And then what do Romulus and Remus start a culture that says what? The dog. See, the wolf is a canine. The dog is a canine. And the culture says the dog is man's best friend. The dog is treated better than the black people. Are you all with me? See, and if anybody has any experience, a psychiatrist sees this all the time. Let's say a child is given up by the parent. And so, you know, the fantasy is that one day the mother and child will get back together and they will embrace and live happily ever after. But that's not what happens. There may be an initial embrace. And then what is the child's response going to be? You gave me up. You so and so and so and so and so. Are you all with me? And anger and hurt and mistreatment follow. So I say, you know, maybe this is the whole story. And so what do? We apologize to the white people. And say, but now, since you set up this system of injustice, we're going to stop it. See, this is not going to continue. Because this is not the way that we can have peace on this planet. And we are the parent people of the planet, and we are going to take our parental responsibility. Because I can see the Creator sitting up, he, she, combination of both maybe, saying, hey, I made you all the first people on the planet. I gave you everything. Nobody is more than you. So don't call on me. See? I don't want to hear it. I want to see whether you are in touch. I hear that black people are the most religious people. Are we in touch? See, are we in touch? You know, even the white people say, what? The most powerful thing in the universe is what? A black hole. And now they discovered the thing that holds it all together is dark matter. Now I say that if we are hating black, see, we need to review. George Washington Carver, black man, crystal black man. He said he would go out early in the morning when it was quiet, and the plants would talk to him and tell him what they could do. See, this pigment, black, is the superior absorber of energy. Everything is energy. Everything is energy. What if these cells that we wish we could get rid of, oh God, give me some more bleach. And what if the Creator is saying, I gave you they say, scientists say the melanocyte that produces this black pigment is the second most sophisticated cell in the human body, second only to the best, B-E-T-Z, cells that are in the cerebral cortex that we think with. And we can't stand it. God, please make me white. Dr. Welsing, please create a pill that if I take on Monday, it'll turn. What is mommy's favorite color of a person? What is daddy's favorite color? A little child will tell us what we think is beautiful. And so you just use that, not to shame yourself, you just use it as a corrective. You say, this is fascinating how I've been programmed under racism, white supremacy. This is absolutely fascinating. So do you all follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
People who classify themselves as white are not going to deliver us. And the question is whether we care enough about ourselves to deliver us. Well, let me stop and let you all ask some questions.
I want to make it as orderly as possible. If anything, if you're close to this side, make a line here at the second row, and over here, and make a line from the second row. Whoever has questions that they would like the doctor to answer. And we're going to do one side each. All right, starting on this side.
Come up and real loud. Come up.
Real loud. All right, everybody, we gotta get some order here so she can get the. There you go.
Okay. So my question, Dr. Welsing.
Loud.
Okay. So my question for Dr. Welsing is, what do you feel about, do you believe that black women are being used strategically as a tool, like with The Color Girls, not just the movie, but also the play, The Color Purple, Wait and Exhale, a lot of black women in literature in particular who are respected by black people, do you believe that we're being used as a tool to criminalize and to demonize and to destroy black men?
Well, see, as long as we do not understand the system, we will be tools of the system, whether we're male or whether we're female. You see, in other words, black women don't have anything to do with white people making strategic decisions. We don't have to worry about the women. Do you see? In other words, if we control the men and destroy the men, the women will also perish in the process. Do you see? So it looks on the surface, and then it's like if we don't understand racism and white supremacy, where the system will say, give that woman a job and pay her more than you pay him. First of all, that's going to create tension in the household. Do you see? Now, a lot of times a man will say, it doesn't matter to me if she makes more money. But his manhood in this system is attacked. You see, so dissension will begin to go forward. And he might even subconsciously, she makes more, I don't really feel like a man, how can I feel like a man? I gotta have another woman, 2 women, 3 or 4 children. to give me proof that I am a man. So then we end up with total chaos in terms of what's happening to all of us. You see, so it's white supremacy that is making the decisions, and we are victims of it. You see, but they will use that. In other words, whether it's Precious, Tyler Perry, or any of for colored girls, all of these images just go out and look at these people. See, a reporter called me from Scandinavia, and somebody gave her my name. And she said, Dr. Welsing, do black people realize these images in these movies are going all over the world and influencing how people think about black people? And see, Hitler understood, I'm getting ready to kill the Jews. So I'm going to use the magazines, the newspapers, and the movies to make negative images of them, build up that image in the mind of the people, the German people, so when I'm killing them, everybody will be thinking good riddance of rubbish. Do you see people looking at the images of us? Do you see whether it's music videos, all that trashy behavior? I'm sorry. We have been reduced to trash. And somebody from the outside looking at it, my God, look at those people. They don't deserve jobs. They don't deserve health care. They don't need education. Do you understand?
Yes. Thank you.
He's going to record the answer if you don't mind, because this is for
Go ahead,
someone
bro.
from Facebook.
Don't worry about it.
All right, good. Shai Pacheco Hamilton from Facebook asks, she said to ask you, what do you think about suicide rates rising among black youth?
Why not? See, it's like if you see some of these male children that have what I call father hunger, they want their father so badly. I was just talking to a gentleman who's a social worker on Thursday night, and he was talking about a child who's acting up in school. And he said that, you know, of course the parents are not married, and the father promises to come, but he doesn't come. And that hurts the child to his soul. I don't care what the mother is doing. The mother is not a man. You see, now the man is not, in other words, we are victimized as a people, and to the extent, as Neely Fuller said, if you don't understand white supremacy, racism, what it is and exactly how it works, it's attack on black people in general and black men in particular for white genetic survival. Do you see? So it's not about blaming ourselves. It's like trying to find the courage to look at white supremacy. Finding the courage to say to white supremacy, we're afraid of you. We're afraid to focus on you. I mean, that gets a whole lot of mileage. We are afraid. I'm afraid. I gave a lecture in London, and the people have been raising sand about me coming, so I'm standing in front of this audience, and I said, let me say this first of all. I'm afraid of you all. I don't know what you might try to do to me. Oh, no. Oh, don't worry, guys. You understand what I'm saying? But we should say, no, we're afraid of you. What's the history? Should the Native American people be afraid? Yes. Yes, we're afraid. Lynching, castration, beating, justifiable homicide. Why wouldn't a sane person be afraid? So if we start saying that, they'll start saying, well, what are you going to do? We don't know. We're too afraid right this minute. But we're trying to face reality.
Appreciate it.
Okay, enough said.
Thank you.
Okay, yes,
Next
sir.
person.
All right, my question is
Real loud, sweetie.
my question is, it's a little bit off the topic, but it's based on post-traumatic
Real
slave
loud.
syndrome.
Loud.
It's based off of post-traumatic slave syndrome and how black women think of black males as lazy, they don't want to work, they're not the father they're supposed to be, they're not protective of a black woman, they're not providing for the black woman, they can't sustain a family, they call them out their names, they want to be pimps. It's just because generation not being able to protect and provide because you couldn't, because you had a weapon to your head to watch your mother, your daughter being slaved and raped repeatedly, but you couldn't lash out. That you feel now that you feel more as a man by dominating another black man, but you won't dominate a white man because you couldn't dominate a white man. You couldn't look him in the eyes, but they never gave you therapy to say you're free, but I'm gonna sit you down and tell you why you act the way you act because you wasn't a man before. You was a boy. That was a European word for adolescent, and you never evolved into a man. That's 3/5 of, So the reason why a lot of black men have a problem, they not understanding. My question is, how can you make a black woman understand why the black man acts the way he acts?
See, let me just say this again and again and again. The black woman is not the black man's problem. Thank you. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt. But I want the black men to understand this.
Well, in other words, we gotta embrace ourselves.
There you go, bro.
Embrace ourselves and embrace each other. And then let's get down to understanding. You remember some of the old cowboy movies? And it would be somebody like Gary Cooper or John Wayne, and he's telling the woman, don't go, don't go. I've got to go and fight the Indians. You stay home. I hope I get back.
Yeah.
But if I don't, I'm taking care of business. Now, I'm not talking about black men going out and finding a white man to kick. No, it's about understanding what is being done by the white collective. See, black men need to, if I could wave another magic wand, say, no, we're going to work. See, we want jobs. We want jobs. See, but you can train people. If you have several generations of mothers going to work and coming home and feeding male children, then that male child will grow up and ask a woman, what kind of job do you have? See, now, this is just tactics and strategy on this side of the board that we haven't been thinking about. We haven't understood, so then we quarrel with each other. And as long as there's fear, it's like the man on the job, his boss kicks him, he comes home and kicks the dog and kicks his wife. Who's his problem? The boss on the job. You see, so this is where we have to get to. You see, the woman is not going to teach the man how to be a man. You see what I'm saying? And this is why I say that if black women would do their part, our part would be, you really are fine. You really are good looking. But 30, 35, 2, 3. See, married. What if black women were saying, not out of hatred? This is not a game bringing children in the world.
That's right.
Thank you. See, this is not a game. Go out there and tell the white collective, no, we're men, we're going to work. See, we are going to work, but as long as the sex comes first, do you see, like what do they say? Why pay for the cow when you can get the milk? And so we don't have to feel bad. These are patterns that we have fallen into, not understanding what the structure, process, goal of the system is. But it's like I can't say often enough, black men stop focusing on the woman. See, you're my, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have a problem. Do you see, it would be better if the black man said, look, I can understand. I can understand your frustration. Because I'm not in a position to protect you, defend you. I can't protect myself. I can't take care of any children. Now, if we were all saying that, would that this was not a war? See, nobody in Afghanistan is jumping out of a foxhole or behind a rock and talking about, I got to get some.
Right. Right.
See what I'm saying? I mean, we've got to tighten up. We got to get into discipline if we are serious about ourselves.
Responsibility.
See, one of the secretaries of agriculture's name was Butts. Years ago, said all black people want. Now he said this in public. Is tight pussy, loose shoes, and a warm place to piss. Now he said it in public. Why? Because they had bred us to be that. Do you see? Not to stand on our feet, because in other words, I'm not going to let you be a man if I can help it. So black people have to say, no, we're going to be men. Now we're not going to be wearing dresses and high heel shoes and earrings. Okay.
Thank you, brother.
All right.
Appreciate it.
I'm not really a loud speaker or shouter, you know?
Real loud.
But I have a two-part question.
One at a time.
Right. And in your lecture you mentioned that
Real loud.
in the lecture you mentioned that we don't have a clue. So I'm asking, why is it we don't have a clue if it's so obvious?
It's not out. In other words, see, imagine children in the first grade. Black children, white children in school, and the teacher says, boys and girls, good morning, everyone. We are in a system of racism, white supremacy. And this is how the system works. The system is unfair to black and non-white children, and it treats white children as though they are superior. Now then, everybody starts understanding. You see, but what? There is such a thing as miseducation.
Yes, it is.
See, it's just like going all over Africa and saying, okay, now here are your guns. Now, I want you to fight these people over here. They're your enemy. And they don't have a clue. So all over Africa, people are fighting and killing each other. You see, just like here. All over, after I teach you to hate yourself.
Yes.
That's first. I've got to teach you to hate yourself. So when you look at your image, you're saying, I hate, there's another one that looks like me. Yeah, I'll kill him. I'll kill her. See, so we've been miseducated for a purpose. They're 1/10 of the people on the planet. The only way that a minority can overcome a majority is divide and conquer. And this is what they are masters. We could go around saying to the white people, you all are masters. They'll say, what? Imagine being at a cocktail party with white people. You're supposed to be acting like everybody's equal. Oh no, master. No, I'm not your master. You've got 2 degrees. No, you are the master. You are running a masterful system. We're just beginning to understand. Now, one thing, you will not be invited to another cocktail party. Second part.
All right, the second part is what role does these Planned Parenthood clinics in the middle of the black community, and even the St. Francis emergency room, and the fast food diet, the McDonald's, Burger King, what role do these play in the system of white supremacy?
Well, let me just start at this end. That they have chemicals. Perhaps you've heard about bisphenol, the chemicals that are in plastics and in baby bottles that will turn a male into a female. Now, if you had this problem, would you put it in a Big Mac if you could?
Yes.
Do you see what I'm saying? Or anything else. It's like we need to focus on the fact we've got an epidemic of a feminization of black males. Even the pediatricians are noticing it but afraid to talk about it. See, we ought to be saying, wait a minute, what is going on here? That's just like HIV/AIDS. See, they could be doing saturation. In the 80s, I was in London. And if you turned on the television, you would see commercial after commercial, get tested, get tested, get tested, get tested. They don't have any mass movement to test people here. They could test everybody in the prison, test them when they come out. No. Why should I? Why would I make a biological weapon if I don't want to deploy? And if I deploy it, I'm not going to pull it back. I've got a purpose. You see, so black people ought to be saying HIV is biological warfare until proven otherwise. If you're going to have sex, decide you're going to have self-respecting, safe sex. Do you see, or have you been tested?
Yes.
See, but it's like if my brain has been reduced to I'm a dog and I'm a hoe, and I'm a bitch, why should I be tested? It doesn't feel the same. Or why should I use a condom? Meaning I don't care if I die.
Right.
I don't deserve to live.
Yes.
See, like they were saying in Nazi Germany about the Semites of the Jewish religion, life unworthy of life. Life unworthy of life. We have been conditioned to feel that about ourselves and to step into I don't care, which is programming in the system. So I hope that that answers. Reading it right. Reading is more, repeat after me. Reading is more important. Than watching TV. Let's say it again. Reading is more important than watching TV. Go ahead. Okay, I love it. Okay.
All right, here you go. Go ahead, brother.
My question.
You gotta speak loud too.
All right, I'm a guerrilla poet, and
All right.
I get on trains every day to do my poetry. My question is this: how can we wake people up with your messages when most of our people throw up 20-foot walls, close their ears and their minds? You know, I see this every single day when I get on the trains and everything. When I get in the train of cars and everything, and like there's always like a certain amount of percentage that always gives me. And I'm like they'll acknowledge and everything like that, But how do we make people want to ingest the truth? Any suggestions? Do you have any advice?
Yes. See, how do we relate to one another? And like the church said, whosoever will, let him come. Not whoever I can bang over the head. You see, so somebody says, look, I don't want to hear anything about racism. That crazy Dr. Welsing, I don't want to hear it. You see that? Say that's okay. That's okay. You see, and if you don't get anybody to listen, you write your poetry. Right. Do you see what is, you know, people say to me, Dr. Welsing, I heard you 20 years ago. And I knew you were crazy. It's 20 years later, and then they'll say, now I understand. Do you see what I'm saying? So no, we have to embrace ourselves, and we have to embrace one another. And let me just say the stops. Neely Fuller, these are stops. Yeah. Stop name calling one another. Yeah. Thank you. Stop gossiping about one another. Yes. Stop squabbling with one another. Yes. Stop cursing one another. Stop snitching on one another. Yes. Stop being discourteous and disrespectful to one another. Stop robbing one another. Stop stealing from one another. Stop fighting one another. And stop killing one another. Now I've added some to it. Stop using and selling drugs to one another. See, because the thing that they're bringing out now is medical marijuana. Now that's going to say to every young black person, oh, this is medicine. But we won't have a clue as to what's in it. And they had a 2-hour-long program on TV. They got a black couple who are one of the chief manufacturers. See, that's to suck us in. So please be careful. So stop using and selling drugs to one another. Stop making black children think that as children, they can be adequate mothers and fathers. All right. Stop pretending that racism, white supremacy does not exist. Stop throwing down trash where black people live, work, and play. If you're willing to live around trash, you're thinking of yourself as trash. Every black person needs to get a PhD in broom study. Stop allowing racism, white supremacy dividing black, brown, red, and yellow people. Okay. Thank you.
My name is Ma'at. I'm a college student. I'm a double major, Africana Studies and Anthropology. I just wanted to say that when I'm in classes, it's the disrespect level from the teachers. Like they won't. I sit in the front, you know, I dress up, you know, I raise my hand, the non-acknowledgement, and even this could relate to a job. What do you suggest that we do in order to deal with that? Because sometimes it makes you feel like, it made me feel reminiscent of a lynching, just a emasculation that happened.
Well, you know, it's like if you read our history, there are black people who have integrated schools and they made black people sit behind a screen. Yes. You see, you were not allowed to be in the same space with whites. See, now, if you have in your mind, they're supposed to like me. They're supposed to accept me. As opposed to, I understand racism, white supremacy. You see, and the teacher is doing his or her best to discourage me, to make me give up, like they did studies some time ago where they found out, you know, a little black child, let's say he's 7 years old, and he's got the answer, and he's raising his hand like that, and the teacher just keeps ignoring. And then his hand begins to come down, and he is despondent because he thinks. Now imagine, you see, if you go into class and say, well, this is interesting. This teacher is acting like they think of me as the enemy. Well, I understand fear of white genetic annihilation. So I'm just going to sit here, do my best to pass the exams, and come out and help black people.
My question was kind of
You're
similar.
louder.
My question was kind of similar to the young brother's question. I want to know, the more I become myself, African, the more I become conscious of white supremacy. It's like I feel like the world is against me now because I'm trying to awaken my people around me. What did you do when you was going through it? Because I've seen you around my age, and now I feel like I'm in your shoes at that time, but now we're in 2010, where the consciousness of black youth is not the same. So it's like it looks like I'm the crazy one for thinking a certain way and trying to change the youth. And I have like teachers, like the guy said, making me feel like I'm wrong for speaking from my own experiences in life. What did you do to humble yourself from being angry or lashing out? Because like I get into battles with these teachers or people and I'll tell myself that's not the way. But I feel like, and I'm very respectful to like, I speak to them the way I should, but I still feel like at the end of the day, I'm the one that's cast out and put to the side like I'm the enemy. What am I to do?
Well, see, in other words, we are in a war. And if you don't understand you're in a war, why are these bullets coming at me?
I know.
You see, no, you got to really understand. I would say to patients sometimes, because they would be complaining about discrimination on a job. And I say, you got to have in your mind that the clothes that you're wearing might as well be battle fatigue. You see, you're going into the war zone. And you are being, if you're not being promoted, if you don't have the right salary, and all that stuff that goes on, like the young man was talking about. This is what happens in the system of racism, white supremacy. It's not a system of justice. Do you see? So you may have to pick your battles, but the most important thing, you have to decide, I value myself.
That's right.
Do you see? And I say self-respect is sort of like the armor of God.
Yes, it is.
Do you see that you have to value yourself? And that's why when they were running all that negative imagery at us, it's weakening our armor of self-respect. Do you see? So you have to just understand the process of the war and decide that you are going to be self-respecting and patient. I gave a lecture at a hospital one time, and I'm talking about racism, white supremacy. So a white doctor got up and he said, you're paranoid. And I just smiled. And so then a black person got up and said, he said, you're paranoid and you just smiled. I said, no, he gave me a compliment. He said, I understand racism and white supremacy. Do you see what I'm saying? The system doesn't acknowledge itself.
Right.
It's not going to validate. Do you see? If they acknowledge that their whole system was fear of white genetic annihilation, that thing would be washed up tomorrow.
Yes.
Do you see? So they're not going to acknowledge. And see, the more they ignore you and the more you practice being calm and self-assured. Like during the Vietnam War, I used to look at the woman on TV who was the North Vietnamese negotiator, Madam Ben. And she was so calm. And I used to wonder, her people are being really physical war against. And she's just calm, and I used to say, I want to be just like Madam Ben. You see, where you know what the war is, and you can stand up and talk about it without yelling and screaming. Now, is it difficult? Yes. You see, but it's like everybody has to find out, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing on this planet? Right. You see, what am I supposed to be doing as the mothers and fathers of everybody on this planet? All right. Good evening.
My question is this: if the story of Remulus and Romulus is true, and they are children, is it also true that they have less active strands of DNA than we do? So what I understand, they have only 6 and we have 9.
Well, let's not just focus on what they don't have. Right. Because whatever they don't have, they're standing on us. Do you see what I'm saying? And so what you want to look at is, what are they doing? What are they doing to us? Now, what is our counter strategy? Right. You see, because the things, just like saying you are genetically inferior in terms of intelligence. You see, or you're a minority when they're the minority. Right. You see, so all that stuff, what we have to understand is, what is it that they're doing and why are they doing it? They're doing it to genetically survive. But if we say, you know, it's like, I'll say white people are smarter than we are. Now that usually doesn't go down well with black people. You see, but what are you saying? I mean, that's like whatever football team is your favorite team, and if they lost. Do you see what I'm saying? You say, they lost. They lost. See, the fact that somebody is smart, people who are standing on you are smarter than you are. At that moment in time, because you haven't figured out how to get them off. So if we just went around saying, you white people are really smart. You don't have to say smarty MFs. You say, you all are smart. You all are smart. You all are, see, follow. You are a tiny minority on the planet, and you're controlling the whole planet. Now you make them want to go home. You see, but say you're smart. We haven't figured out how to checkmate you yet. Yes. But we're thinking about it. As a matter of fact, we are putting partying on the side. Like a young man who's in law school in Florida called me up. And he said, Dr. Welsing, the black students are failing their courses, but they're doing the step in law school, stepping. See, it's like we have been led into foolishness city. Yes. See, flunking school, these are graduate people. I'm telling you. And he said the Asian students are looking at him. What in the world are they doing? Why aren't they in the library? Yes. See, so it's a whole lot of things we got to examine that were okay when we were not thinking about victimization. See, we can give up singing and dancing. We got PhDs in that. We got PhDs in foolishness. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, what we don't have PhDs in is getting people off of our backs. Yes. Right. You see, we don't have PhDs in behavior that reflects that we respect ourselves. And that's what we got to go after. Okay? All right.
Loud now.
Hi. I don't think I have a question. I think I just have to compliment you. A sister of mine told me that you were in town, and your ear should be ringing because I mention your name all the time. I have followed you since the days of First World.
Okay.
And from then until now, everything that you have said has come to pass. It's unfortunate, but it has. I heard a tape of yours a while back, and I remember you stating that what is going on with us could have started even biblically. And I am in theology school right now, and it has, and even before that. Right now, I live in Brooklyn. I'll just say this to everybody, and I live in Flatbush, and it seems as though, to me, it's like a genie has just come out of a bottle, and all the negativity that we have learned for whatever thousands of years is just, just coming forth. And I guess my question to you, in one way, is why? That's the first question. The second thing is that, like you said before, we get into the intellect. I mean, it's nice to be educated, but we keep looking and comparing about we're smarter and they're smarter, and at this point, it's neither here nor there, to me. To me, it's like you said, it's a question of self-respect and finding out why we're on this planet and doing the Creator's work. Something else I was going to say to you, and I can't remember, but I'm so thankful that you're here. I'm so thankful that you have continued to say the same thing. I told my friend one of the things that I have found with you all the time, that you have been always able to get your message across without using curse words. And I personally have a problem with that, because I say that if in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was, and the Word was good, then I think that when we're communicating with each other in terms of lectures, that there is no need to go into that white supremacy mode. I mean, I think you've been around long enough, and we've discussed in terms of the language, the MFs, and all the other words that go along with it, that we should try to alleviate that. I mean, I don't use the word, but my favorite word at home is AWS, and every time I use it, there's a jar that I have to put a dollar in. Okay, so again, I thank you so much. And one last thing, somebody mentioned about reading. I read a book on Dickens. It was on crime and education. I was reading it online, and I'm just curious to know, it's like a script when you read it about the educational system that went on in England during his time. It's like a script that is being done right here within the Board of Ed. And my question is, why is that? And I just want to hope.
Possibly about the education system in Dickens' time. Do you see where they had classes, and they were, economic classes of people, and interested in holding certain people locked in their lower class, so they don't get an education. Do you see, why should you educate people that you want to hold down or hold into oppression? You see, the people have to, like black people did in formal enslavement, where you could be killed if you tried to learn how to read. You see, but people learned how to read on a dirt floor, or they snuck and tried to find ways to learn how to read. You see, but now we have, the programming has become more, what shall we say, intensified and sophisticated. So we have young people saying, if you're trying to learn, you're acting white. Do you see, which means that black people, we are stupid. And we are supposed to be stupid, and the white people are supposed to be white. I mean, supposed to be white, supposed to be smart. Do you see, so again, it's understanding, if you understand the system, that's like if a doctor understands the disease, then the symptoms are placed within the framework of understanding the disease. A doctor who's just running after the symptoms is doing poor medicine. But thank you very much for your comments.
Okay. And welcome.
Thank you.
I thank you for being you.
You're allowed to.
Okay. I thank you for being you and all the work that you have done over the years and your contribution. It is really important, most important, I would say, because many of us are stumbling blind under the Western domination without realizing it, and searching for answers and continue to search for answers and continue to have questions. No one other than yourself, with the exception of maybe I can count them on one hand, that has given us explanation to why this and why that and why am I overqualified to get a job and why I'm not just getting a job. I just didn't understand it. And you yourself, I've been following for at least 10 years, you yourself and others have made that abundantly clear, and I want to thank you for that. And I would also like to say that one of the reasons for white survival, not white supremacy, although it's part, although they complement each other, is the fact that scientifically the Caucasian race cannot reproduce their offspring to the rate of a black queen. So this is another angle and another reason for the white supremacy. Yeah, Mike, one of the questions, is a short statement, then a question. I would like to say that we as a people don't owe them an apology for nothing. Why? Because going back, when they were in Africa as albino genetic mutants, before they were cast out because they misbehaved. So this is the reason why they were cast out in the first place, because we had no system or society for jails and things like that. So I just wanted to say that, and there's so much more, but time is of the essence, and I thank you. We must stay in touch.
Let me just say this, though. You know, in our society, there are children born who are deformed and have various severe abnormalities. And right here, we push them away, put them in institutions. Do you see? So, just like in Africa today, do you see the albino mutants might not be doing anything, but we're saying something is wrong with you and you don't look right. See, it's nothing wrong with apologizing. You see, somebody might be able to come up with a cure for albinism. Any black person in this room could have an albino mutant offspring. Do you see? So it's like you, instead of being afraid like the people in some of the African countries, think that the albinos have power. Now, of course, being under white supremacy, they do have. Do you see what I'm saying? They have power. You got white people running over to rescue them and everything. And so white represents power in a system of white supremacy. So it's nothing. I tell parents, you know, sometimes parents do things to hurt children.
Yes.
And adult might come to the psychiatrist's office, and I say, you know, they're talking about the abuse and the kinds of things that the parent said. And I said, will your parent come in? Will your parent come in? Not so the doctor can throw a vase at them, but to say, this hurt your child. Could you apologize as the parent? Do you see, can you say, I am your parent. I brought you in the world. You didn't have a say about it. And so if I have hurt you in any way, I'm going to apologize to you. Or I'm going to sit silently and listen to you. Tell me how I've hurt you. Because I'm your parent. I brought you in this world. And my shoulders are broad enough to hear your criticism. Do you see? And that helps the person begin to heal, because it's wounding. Do you see? I mean, that's just, you know, humility, and ain't nothing wrong with being able to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. You see, we could say, if we knew you were going to raise all this hell. You see, but the first time I did it, I thought that the white people were just going to go into, because I say, obviously, you think we are your kin, which is why you have Aunt Jemima feeding you. Uncle Ben feeding you. Do you see? You got Oprah. Tell Mammy what's the problem. Do you see? And she's the wealthiest lady in the entertainment world. Yes, she is. She telling, come and tell Mammy what's the problem. Okay. Who's next?
Sister
Yes,
Doctor, thank you for being here. You had 9
areas
parts.
of activity.
Yes, and I heard recently that you added a 10th health.
No, it's,
Well, maybe I misunderstood, but could you just explain how health? I mean, it's obvious, but could you explain in your words how health plays a big part in all?
see, health, you can put the 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And so when stuff is going wrong in any of those areas of activity, that impacts the well-being of the person. You see, the stress in economics, the stress in education, the stress with unjust laws, all of that is impacting health. So health doesn't have to be a separate area of activity. Okay? That's my opinion. Yes.
First and foremost, I would like to, I'm very nervous.
Oh, that's cool.
I am so honored to be in your presence because this is my first time hearing about you. I just recently learned about your works and I listened to your videotapes and everything, and I'm beginning to understand the situation. But I also want to let the audience know that I brought my son here, who is 21 years old. And I told him, if you can watch all of that foolishness on the television, that you have to make time to come and see Dr. Francis. And could you please stand up?
But let me say this. You know, somebody might say, well, how are you able to do what you do? And you know what is in my mind? I say because I had the parents that I had. See, because I had the grandparents that I had. My paternal grandfather was a physician in Chicago. He died in 1909. And my father, who's now deceased, but at some point much later, he gave me some written material that his father had written about. And my grandfather had written, how dare anyone think that they're superior because of the color of their skin.
Thank you.
Do you see? Now, I never knew him. And I ended up writing about racism and color. When I wrote the Cress theory, I was sitting down talking to my father, sitting at the dining room table. And my father said, okay, I read the Cress theory. Now you have to find out what's in the melanin. And I never would have thought that, you see, without my father guiding me in that direction. So it's like I am extremely grateful that I had the parents that I had, parents who were political. You see, parents who would drag us to hear Paul Robeson, who would drag us to hear W.E.B. Du Bois. Do you see, we might be saying, oh, see, my parents didn't say, did you want to go? No, you are going to go and hear this. You see, you are going to take these courses in school because you need that in order to do thus and so. So I'm just extremely grateful for the parents. I mean, you know, you don't have anything to do with selecting them. But I'm glad that I had the parents who were political people, politically thinking people, left-wing thinking people. Like Richard Wright wrote Some Black Boy in my godmother's house in Chicago. Do you see? So these are people who, because of the way they were thinking, they guided us to, you know, feel that we have a right. One time the FBI, CIA was investigating me because I wrote a letter to the president when they killed the children in Birmingham. And so my mother called up and said, you know, the government people have been here questioning us. And I said, you know, questioning my parents about my activity. And so I asked my mother, what did she say? And my mother said, she said, I told them that we raised you to protest. That's right. So what more can you ask?
On that note, you kind of like answered the question I was going to ask. Because myself, as a parent of a 6-year-old daughter, I didn't have that from my parents with the politics. I only have parents of Haitian descent, so it's within their blood, which transferred to me to open myself to the information to pass on to my daughter. My mother, she's more religious, so I would always be there because she never asked me, did I want to go to church? I just had to go to church. And I would sit there and it would always be so confusing to me. So as I got older and I started reading and meeting different people who were giving me the information and reading your book, my child now was in a school that was run by our people. But they still held on to the traditions of the white supremacy and things that I tell her that are not productive for her and her melanin dominance and her role in this phase of everything. So my question was, she is now in a different school where it's still a situation where she's still trying to find herself. I feel like everything that I'm giving to her, she's looking at it as, you're always talking about that stuff, but this is what everyone else is doing. But I tell her all the time, you are in this world, but you don't have to be of it. You know, but you have to kind of like find your way. I know you're 6 years old, but I'm going to keep giving this information to you because one day it will make sense. It will make sense because I know right now with your peers, our current environment is going to feed for the children to still look in a different direction. They're going to want, yes, that straight hair, because she tells me all the time, I want my hair like this, and I want it to do this and drop like this. No, it's not going to happen like that, honey. You have curly hair, and it's just not going to happen. Oh, well, and I did it the other day. I took her into one of these stores, and I said, well, which doll? Grandma wants to get you a doll, and she told me to bring you here so you can pick the doll. There were 3 different shades. I said, which doll would you like? And she didn't pick the Caucasian-looking doll, but she picked the kind of Spanish-looking one. Now, the darkest one was in the middle. I said, well, why didn't you pick that one? Oh, okay, I'll pick that one. No, you chose that one for a reason because in the school that you attend, these are the children that you see around you. Those are the children that get the attention. Those are the children that the boys kind of lean towards, you know, oh, I like her because she has this kind of hair or this is her complexion. So I wanted to know, besides homeschooling, what is the best way to kind of like teach your child in this environment that we're currently in? Like what's kind of schooling, like what besides homeschool?
See, in other words, I wouldn't know a department of psychiatry to tell somebody to train in that is talking about racism, white supremacy. They don't exist.
Right.
Do you see? So it's
Not
like
even
a
in our
lot
issues.
of education, gentle education. Do you see? Not being upset with your daughter when she says, I want the white one or I want the one that looks Spanish. See, I would say, just as a suggestion for next time, that you said, okay, Mom will buy you the one that you select, but I'm also going to buy you the one that Mom thinks is most beautiful. Do you see? So I want you to have this because Mother thinks this is absolutely beautiful because it looks like you. But not being shocked or surprised because the children have taken in what the culture is teaching. Do you see? I tell children who might be engaged in sexual activity. Do you see? Two things, if not more, but one thing, I mean, all you can do is look at movies and listen to music and look at, you know, this is sex, 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 sex. And I say it because white people are unhappy. If they're unhappy with their appearance, you will be unhappy about the act that produced you. That goes also for us. You see all the negative things that people can have to say about the act that we should have the highest level of respect for. You see, but not be surprised when the children internalize the culture. We're not surprised if everybody in the house speaks English. We don't say, how did the child learn how to speak English? Because that's what's being spoken in the house. Do you see? But there's a lot of education that has to go on in the home. And I will repeat, you see, the education of the child begins before the sperm meets the egg.
That's right.
You see, because that's engaging in whether there's going to be respect for the thing that is the product of that activity. Do you see it? If I'm playing with sex, the joke is on the offspring. Okay? Got
Welsing. My name is Reverend Andrea
Okay,
Payne.
real loud now, real loud.
Okay, I tend to be told to shut up, so this is great. My name is Reverend Andrea Payne, and I was introduced to the ISIS papers in 2006. And this is what my first thing was, oh my God, now I understand why white people hate us so much. Because I couldn't figure it out.
Okay.
So you gave me an answer that it was unsettling, but at least I had some kind of answer. So thank you, and thank you, Neely, also.
Okay.
My second thing was, this woman has courage to write this, you know, to stand up and speak and share this information. So I have a couple comments. One, also I want to thank you for having your courage, and I want to thank these brothers for holding this space and creating this space. One thing that you said, and I wanted you to comment on, you said white people they're smart. And I've always said they're brilliant. But on the other hand, the other night I was on the train to do a spiritual service, and I said to myself, if I had the courage, I would write a book and call it The Predator Race. Because that race of people is willing to destroy everything, including the planet. Everybody. I mean, I don't think that there's any group of people that I've read about who was more willing to kill everybody and everything in sight. And I think that that's part of the problem that we're facing. I do think that we are now killing each other, but not at the level of, like, the Arabs now are beginning to understand what we've been dealing with. And so are the, you know, the people in Honduras, you know, so okay, that's the question, that what do we do when you talk about the fear, when you're dealing with the race of people who was willing to destroy everything, including the planet? And the other thing is, I was surprised to find out that whites wanted to have you lecture to them, speak to them. What is that all about?
No, it's like the places where I have encountered white people is when I've been invited by black people. See, it might be the Black Student Union or something like that. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's where that is. I'm losing your.
But I was asking you about, because you talked about the fear, which is something
Question?
I
See, in other
that's
words-
what I'm asking her.
What?
The question is,
See, in other words, we're saying that if you're frightened and fearful, you see, ooh, that person, those people, they can hurt me, make me disappear. You see, and so yes, they are going to buy anything that they can cook up with their brain computers. It's just like people who feel inadequate will manifest that in greed. You see, I feel deficient, so I have to have all the oil, all the gold, all the minerals, all the land, all the people, all the because I'm feeling inadequate.
okay, so I have to look at the inadequacy, and maybe that would take away some of my fear?
Now, I don't know, take away your fear. See, in other words, we have fear because we have been brutalized by racism, white supremacy. You see, but self-respect helps you get over and get over fear. So at some point, my self-respect outweighs my fear. Like sometimes people say, how do you get the courage to do that? I'm more afraid if I understand something and understand the plight that we are in as a people, I'm more afraid to not share it than I am afraid of what can happen to me. Okay? All right. Got it.
Yes, I wanted to first start off with the compliment, rather, of self-respect that I learned from you, and then it's going to kind of segue into my question. I first read the ISIS papers, Keys to the Colors, back in 1996. And I think prior to reading that book, I was functionally illiterate. I had never picked up a book or read anything. I managed to graduate high school, but in hindsight, I'm not sure how. But when I read your book, not only did it give me self-respect, but it really encouraged me to want to grow as a person, to want to learn in order to be able to effectively make changes. Since that time, I'm at NYU now working on my second master's degree at NYU. My question is, at NYU, at the lower part of Manhattan, I mean, there's a real disconnect between African Americans. I mean, you can barely get a higher vibe from blacks on the campus. Where do you think we are in terms of self-hate, and what can we do as individuals to kind of offset that self-hate that we have amongst each other?
You know, when I was in college at Antioch and Yellow Springs, Ohio, and I graduated in '57, and integration like I was the only black girl in my class, so integration at that point was one black girl, one black guy. So there might have been 6 or 8 black students on the campus. And nobody would speak, do you see, because everybody was afraid if I'm friendly with another black person, the white people don't like them, because they can deal with one at a time. do you see, but we have, I mean, you know, no, we've been damaged. Every time you turn on the TV, every time you go to the movies, every time you go to a play, every time you listen to music, most of it is damaging to us. It's not telling us we need to embrace one another. We need to love ourselves and embrace one another. So if you understand, I'm not taking personally the fact that they won't speak. I'll just keep trying, but I won't make a nuisance of myself. But I'm open. See, I'm not, I understand why I might have the weaknesses that I have, and I understand the weaknesses that they have, and keep pursuing those degrees.
So my question is similar to other sisters about education, because I feel that education is one of the most powerful ways. I feel that education is one of the most powerful ways that we brainwash our people, because you know, our children are brainwashed from such an early age. So my question is, I work in a school, a middle school. I'm a counselor at a middle school. The population is probably 99% black children, teachers are majority white. I find myself feeling like I'm perpetuating the same system that I'm perpetuating the same system that I'm telling the children to question. So my question is, how do I feel like if I'm not there in the school, they won't have anybody to teach them the truth.
These are black children?
Yes.
Okay.
I've tried educating the teachers. I've run a workshop to help the teachers understand the black experience. So my question is, how do I work within the system?
Well, in other words, the system is not necessarily going to be open to you teaching black children to have respect for themselves. You see, but if you have any leeway, like it just came to my mind as you were talking, Langston Hughes, I believe it was Langston Hughes' poem, Little Brown Baby, if not Paul on Dunbar, Little Brown Baby with Sparkling Eyes. Come to your daddy and sit on his knee. You see, so you are looking for, I'm going to be looking for things that I can read to these children. I'm going to be looking for pictures that I can put on the bulletin board that are positive images of children. I used to be clinical director of a school in a mental health clinic called Paul Robeson Center for Growth and Development. Now, why Paul Robeson? Because he excelled in sports. He was intellect. He was an actor. Do you see? So you can make bulletin boards and show children. And I believe in asking children, every child in school, the teacher ought to say, sweetheart, what do you want to do when you're all grown up? Do you see? What do you want to become? And emphasizing you can be anything that you want to be if you're willing to work hard. Now that's, you're maybe not going to be able to tell them about racism, white supremacy, but you can say you're beautiful. You're black and you're beautiful. You see, I love the way you look. You see, as opposed to yanking on somebody. I mean, you can get on the bus or maybe the train and see what racism, white supremacy has done. Get over here, little nigger. You see, yanking and screaming at and pulling on children and calling them out of their names. As opposed to, sweetheart, let me embrace you. Let me help you learn. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or learn how to speak to them in a calm, caring voice so the child really begins to sense this person cares about me. Okay? All right.
My daughter wanted to come up with me. I think you kind of answered the question a bit, but I still want to ask it. Educating our children at this point, about racist white supremacy and all of these things is almost a violent act now. It's perceived as a violent act. And institutions such as ACS, child welfare, they'll remove your child from the home if they're found saying these things. How do I know this? Recently there was an incident in my daughter's school. I was talking to a parent who was educating her, I think it was her 7-year-old son, about what this was and what was happening. And I guess report time came, he's in school, he wants to do the report about Malcolm X and Stokely Carmichael. The teacher adamantly refuses. He needs to choose George Washington or Lincoln. The boy refuses to do the situation. Starts talking about, my mommy said this is racist and this is the other. Sends the child to the guidance counselor. Next thing you know, swarm of ACS caseworkers are involved. Intruding upon the person's home. Finding out if there's evidence of neglect or you're spreading racist propaganda with the child. This is mental abuse.
Maybe you're training the terror.
Exactly. So now even educating your children about what they're going to be encountering, okay, is now as a violent act that will have your children taken from you.
Well, you see, again, like there are ways of thinking through and doing things. You see, you don't set a child up to go to school and be disrespectful to the teacher. You see, like sometimes a student, could be high school, a college or a graduate school student, who said, Dr. Welsing, I want to use your material in my thesis. And I said, check with your instructor. See, in other words, you are there to get credentials so that you can come out and do something. The system is, it's like I was told I couldn't have promotion and tenure at Howard University College of Medicine. You see, because of that paper you wrote. What paper, Dean? The Cress, he didn't even know the name of it. Do you see, I subsequently heard, the federal government made them do that. Where's the money coming from? Do you see? So no, you just say, oh, this is interesting now. Mom teaches this at home. If you find a teacher, as a parent, you can go up to the school and ask politely, can my child write about Stokely Carmichael? Do you see, would they get a passing or, an A+? Well, no, we don't really want, fine. You want George Washington? Fine. We write about George Washington, and we can write about Stokely Carmichael and Malcolm X at home. Okay. Thank you. All right.
Being that there's a war going on the race war and stuff like that, a large population.
Real loud.
A large population we all know is in jail. A large population of men that we need, I'm saying, to fight this war. So I think we should be like going more into getting that info in there, because the brothers in there, right, when they're in there at this point, they're not they're more conscious. So I think we should be pushing hard to get to the brothers now, so when they come home, it'll be like, it'll be hope for the kids before everything goes down the drain. So I was wondering, like, is the the activists and the people like yourself and people like me, we're doing everything I think we could to like leave the jail.
Well, first of all, I'll share with you something that Neely Fuller says. Do everything that you can possibly do to stay out of greater confinement. You see, in other words, that's not set up to be anything that is positive. So that if somebody fails to master that lesson. See, in other words, it's like sometimes people think, oh, I'm going against the system using and selling drugs. You're not going against the system. The system puts that there for you. You're not going against the system having a gun. The system puts that there. They got a step-by-step. Take his father out of the home. Cause him to be depressed. Cause him to use crack, cocaine, heroin to deal with the depression. He doesn't know he's depressed and street treating depression. Okay, then he will break the law, and then I will have him in the concentration camp prison. They got it all set up. So you're not outsmarting him. You're outsmarting him when you say, I got to do everything to stay out of that. I got to do everything I can to get maximum education. You see, but if I happen to get in there, give me some books. A lot of places, they won't let you have books. Do you see, but what you can do is have some codified, well, this is an opportunity for me to practice. No cursing, no name calling. You see, those are exercises in black mental health and black self-respect, instead of the exact opposite. See, even if people just said, instead of all that, they see those TV programs lock up. Do you see, and all the yelling and screaming that goes on. People just practice, we're going to be real quiet in here. We're going to be real quiet. It's not going to be any yelling and screaming. There's not going to be any name calling. There's not going to be any discourtesy and disrespect. People can get in small groups and say, you know, we got to practice mental health in spite of the fact that they want to harm our mental health. But if we engage in certain behavior practices, we will be improving our mental health in spite of what they're hoping is going to happen. You see, we have to do everything we possibly can to maintain gender identity. You see, we have to struggle to not have our gender transformed. See, which is a struggle for manhood. You see, it's all a part of strategically countering. You see, and if Michael Jordan can fly, don't tell me we can't do what we make up our minds to do. Okay. All right.
All right, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right, everybody. We have the DVD for this lecture for sale. It's $20. See Minister Clemson Brown. Also, I got to make an announcement. Bobby Hemmett will be here January 16th, 2011, on Sunday. Also, Brother Brown, my man from True South Books at 492 Nostrand Avenue between Halsey and Hancock. Go check the brother out. He's a beautiful brother. I know him for years, man. January 16th. Right here. Oh, come out, go out and support the vendors.